Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you another install and review video for Project JK. It's just the body right now because I've got the whole chassis pulled apart, because today we are installing the locked up RC spools, the F1 spools, into the axle of Project JK. So what I've done is I'm replacing the stock unit. I mean, it comes with the truck. It's cool. It's great. It lasts you for a bit. And I'm replacing it with this near bulletproof F1 spool that you're going to be able to get, well, actually that you can get from Locked Up RC. Take a look at the video. You'll see the unit. I'll do a weight comparison and a bit of a play. So go check it out. All right, let's start with the packaging itself. This was easy enough. When I got this in from Extreme RC, it is literally just a little package here. Locked Up RC on the front. Of course, does anyone still use IR tags or QR tags? I don't know. Of course, it's part 0821, the F1 spool. A small little piece, right? So pull this little guy apart, rip up, yikes, dropped it, hold on. Okay, so it already survived one drop test. Good job, Joe. All right, there we go. So it is a little guy here, not very large part, very simple, but I can tell you that it's nice and heavy. Ooh, I love the heavy. Nice and heavy part, which means it is going to be, it's going to be good. You know, give me 1 second. Let me grab the scale. Here we go with the scale itself. Going to kind of throw this thing on there, let it tear out. Units are set to, there we go, pounds and ounces. I'll throw this sucker right dead in the center. We're looking at 0.9 of an ounce just for one locker. And you know what, in a second I'll compare them side to side just to check to see. So, but the unit itself is very simple, exactly what it needs to be, but my key thing is it is going to replace that big plastic piece in here. What do I have off to the side? Well, here is all of the unit of the axle itself. You guys have seen enough videos of actually taking the axle apart, so I've already gone ahead and disassembled to make sure that, well, I mean, just for time's sake, I've already got it apart. Now, to kind of show you the difference between the two, once I pull these little bearings off here, actually, hold on, let me clean this thing up a little bit first. I want to get some of the grease off, that way my parts will stay a little bit cleaner. There we go. So in here you're going to see, look at the size difference itself. So you can see here I'm using on the Project JK right now the stock Axial setup in the back, absolutely huge. And of course what you're going to find on the inside of this part is the that little cast piece that they use that always tends to leave a little bit of play. So if I grab the axle in here and I slam that sucker in there, there is a little bit of side to side. Let me see if I can give you a point of reference. Well, I guess if you watch the hole you can see it moving, but then if I put it in this guy here, it is, whoa, that's a very tight fit. There is next to no movement. I think there's just movement because I needed to make sure that it fit. And wow, yeah, these are, oh, this is impressive actually. That's a nice tight fit. There is, yeah, there is next to nothing. There is almost no tolerance and play in that, which is what you're looking for, and it's a very simple install system. So I think what I'm going to do first is I do want to get this little gear off of here, which of course is easy enough, right? We're using a 1.5 to get this little bad boy off of this. Just as a reminder, guys, again, I always like to give this reminder. You want to make sure that you're using good quality tips when you're using 1.5s especially. 1.5 screws are very easy to strip out if your tip is damaged in any way. If you strip out a 1.5, I wish you the best in luck of getting it out. It's not as easy as doing something like notching a 2mm or a 2.5, because 1.5s typically find themselves in very small, difficult spaces. That's the reason why they're 1.5s, is because they need to be in very difficult to get, hard to reach places. So you know what, I'm just going to continue this right here. I do want to show you kind of the weight difference between the two. I want to take this gear off of here and weigh what the stock unit would feel like compared to what, so of course this is going to be a part that goes on both. I'll just pop this off here. This has been on there for so long, there we go. So I'm going to set that aside, and of course I want to get this other bearing off, which these bearings on this side can be a bit of a pain because the plastic on this side tends to not allow it to pop off as easily. Hold on, let me go get a little pick. If you have problems getting stuff like that off, I always recommend just getting a cheap dental pick set. I really like to use them. You can get into places that normally stuff cannot. And I mean, I picked this set up for a couple bucks. and I've had it around for a long time. Yes, it's not the best kit in the world. These parts do bend fairly easy, but you know what? If you're using them for something like this, you don't really need something super, super strong, and it's really good to have for small points of cleaning. I think I just picked this up at a Princess Auto. It cost me a couple bucks, I don't know. So now I've got that piece turned off. So this is your stock system. Stock system, of course, has that little, this little guy on the inside of it, inside a plastic case. This is cast, which means it's very easy to get worn out. And this, of course, is plastic, which means it's very easy to get worn out. So let's bring the scale back here. Put this thing on here. We're going to talk about, so stock, or the new piece is 0.9 ounce, 0.6 ounce. So we're adding a little bit of rotational mass to 0.55. We're adding a little bit of rotational mass to the axle of the kit. But I guess if you're going to add mass, make it low, right? And this is one of the lowest parts of the truck. So just kind of push that scale out of the way. Now, this part here, again, I mean, you can look, right? So you've got your 4 holes in there already. You've got where your bearings are going, and then side to side, they're all going to be the same. And of course, all we're doing, leader holes here onto this unit here, and it fits just like that. So you're going from this unit, one second here, this big, to this unit being this big. Pretty cool, eh? Now, as always, because we're doing metal into metal, we're going to need our Loctite. As always with my builds, I go for the Loctite 222. This is the stuff that I find is best for RC. Tons of different Loctites. I don't think you can pick this up at a local hardware store, but you can find it online. This is the place I recommend to get it. But because we're putting metal, and now we're putting metal into metal, you want to make sure that you've got the Loctite on there. So just give me one second here. I like to put it on a small little piece of plastic so that I don't make an absolute huge mess all over the place. When you're screwing these in, it's probably not as important with metal as it is when you're using the plastic piece, because of course with the metal it's going to sit flush. You can over tighten all day if you want to. It's not really going to do massive damage to the plastic. But when you're using it with plastic, what I like to do is I like to just screw it in a little bit, kind of like you're putting a tire on a real rig. So you do a piece, and then you do the opposite side, and then you kind of do the star pattern to tighten them up. But again, with a metal piece, it's not going to be as important because it's going to be flush as long as it is properly machined. You're not going to get a large amount of play. But I am going to wait to crank them all down just to make sure all the screws are in. Now I am using the stock screws for this, which are very long. You can see off the back of the unit itself how far these things are sticking out. Obviously, it's not needed when you're using these. You don't need to use the stock screws. You could use something else. But since it's not going to hurt anyone's feelings to have that screw hanging out the back like that, it's not going to hinder the performance of this spool at all. You don't need to spend the extra money on that part. There's just no need to. So I'm not going to. This is kind of, just want to show you the comparison against a different stock unit that you could get. So of course, I've got all these on there like that. Bop, bop. Just make sure they're all tight. And again, you're using a 1.5, so do not massive crank it down. And just as a tip, again, when you're using Loctite, give it 24 hours before you run the kit, just to make sure you get a nice lock. This stuff here, what its purpose actually is it becomes hard with the lack of oxygen. So now that there's no oxygen inside there, that is where it's going to start to stiffen up. So of course, we want to get the bearings back on. So pop one on and pop two on. Now that this is not plastic, the bearing is going to fit a little better. So you see that's on there pretty good. We want to, just give me one second, I'm going to clean out the channels a little bit in my axle just to make sure we're getting a nice, good mount. And I do have some old grease in there. I'm going to get that cleaned out too, because I I'm absolutely moving to utter butter on all of my rigs and all of my equipment. So I got that all cleaned out there. Now I'm not having to adjust my pinion or anything like that. I'm still using the setup that I had before. You don't have to change that because your crown gear and your pinion remained unchanged. It was just the spool that you adjusted. So reseat that little bad boy in there. And of course, we're going to slap that in there too. So the size of the unit has not changed at all. It's just kind of the way that it's going to mount in there and the quality of the unit. So we're going from a a wearable product to something that I think is going to be next to indestructible in a kit like this. And of course, for grease, get a little bit of this bad boy on there. I usually just smother it right into the gear. Through using it, it will eventually make its way all the way around. You don't need to absolutely clog this thing. I mean, it's waterproof, that's fine, but now that we're not necessarily using all of that space, I don't think anything large is going to actually collect in there, so I don't necessarily absolutely goop it, but I mean, I do what's needed. Of course, we're going to slap this bad boy back on the front here. And then just for a test fitting, I want to put these guys in just to make sure. Now, it's not going to be as easy, not as easy as putting them into this one here. So when you're putting them in, you may have to fish around with it for a little bit, and the reason being is because the fit tolerance is so tight now. Here, I'll actually pull this off. The fit tolerance is so tight now between this locked up RC F1 spool and the stock unit that it may take you a bit to get these things in there. But now that they're in there, side to side, there is next to no play in this thing, which is absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can feel it here. It's very difficult to show you actually. Let me do this. Let me pop this in here and put a hex on really quick, and then do the same on this side. Pop this in here and put a hex on really quick. I'm not going to bolt the tires down, but I just want to kind of give you an idea. So put that on there, put that on there, and take a look. There's very little play from side to side, and most of that, if you actually look, is actually from the hex itself. So this thing has eliminated a ton of axle play, which is amazing. Now, I've used other lockers before, lockers that actually lock down to the axle itself. And of course, those lockers are going to give you the maximum, the absolute maximum amount of grip onto your axles themselves, but they are not as quick to rebuild. And the reason why I say that is because with my other lockers that I use, if I were to want to pull an axle off and do an installation, I would completely have to pull the unit apart, and then there's a lengthy process of balancing the axle if I'm using a standard axial axle like this one here. So it's a lengthy process to put it back in to make sure that everything is straight. But as a factory upgrade, right from stock, this thing here is absolutely amazing because it literally just pull the cover off, install it in place of this part, and you'll automatically see an improvement in the unit itself. Give me 1 second. I want to get this axle back together. There's no need for me to show you how all this stuff goes back together. Give me 1 second. With the axle back together, again, I left the stock piece out. It can go away. I've got everything back together, and you can already feel the difference in the unit itself. And it's so smooth because given the fact that it is not a clamping diff, not a clamping locker that you actually have to tighten it down, there is still a little tiny bit of play in the unit so that your axle can stay balanced. It's not absolutely locked down. You don't have any unbalance so where it's like wobbling around a little bit. That's a struggle that I've had with balancing my other ones, but this one here, it just goes together so well. Now, I've got the hexes back on. I'm going to throw these back on. Again, because this unit is using an older set of hexed wheels, of course, it's not going to have, it's still going to have some play in the actual hex itself. I cannot eliminate that completely until I move to a different system, which I may do in the future. But let me just lock this down. I want to give you as best example as I can as to what these things are going to do for you. So I've almost got that done there. It's odd seeing tires on an axle without actually being on a truck. So I've got this locked down here. So there you go. So both locked down as best as I could get them. You can see that there is a little tiny bit of play. And that you can see is how much play there is from the entire unit. So if I actually try to hold on to the middle, there's a little tiny bit on the left, a little tiny bit on the right, and from the entire thing there's just, again, a little bit. And this whole thing still runs really well balanced and super smooth with that udder butter and that unit in there, and it's nice and locked. So this is going to help a lot over top of this guy here, because this one here, the more you use it, the sloppier it gets. And because it is a cast piece, it's probably not all that accurate in the first place. So this is going to be a really nice addition to the Project JK, especially with the tires that I use with those really awesome foams. See, like, push them down. Those are nice foams. Got the Crawler Innovation Deuces Wild in there. And, of course, it is so smooth. A little bit of gear noise, but that's because I'm absolutely ripping on it. And that's it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I am definitely going to use a lot more of those lockers. So that's it for that one, guys. I hope that you can check it out. It is the Locked Up RC F1 spool. I picked mine up from Extreme Hobbies, from Heather at Extreme Hobbies in Oshawa, Ontario. For you Canadians, she is an amazing, amazing locked up dealer and always has tons and tons of locked up and other scale stuff in stock in her store. Just give her a shout. The link's below. You can hit her up and tell her what you want, and she'll get it for you. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please go ahead and click on the like button, click on subscribe, comment below, and of course, please share this throughout your community so that other people can see what's going on. Have an amazing day.